Genshin Impact is a game with many characters. Some are good, some are bad, and some are amber. However, for every playable character there is in Genshin Impact, there's at least 50 NPCs in the game, some of which have their own special abilities. Today we'll be looking at one of these NPCs to guess what they would play like if they became a usable character in Genshin Impact. This being Kazari, the NPC mainly involved in the Sacred Sakura Cleansing Ritual questline. This video will contain spoilers for this quest, so it's best that you play the quest before continuing. Finishing the quest will also allow you to understand this video better, so there's that too. Kazari is a shrine maiden that you can meet once leaving Rito when you arrive in Inazuma. She asks for your help in cleansing Narukami Island from the filth that has accumulated over the past 500 years. You agree to her request and then embark on a trip around Narukami Island, cleansing the filth of the land as you go. It is later revealed that Kazari is actually the reincarnated memory of Kitsune Saigu. Even so, she too is considered the filth of the land. At the end of the quest, Kazari sacrifices herself to finally rid Narukami Island from the plague it has endured for 500 years. A sad end for a seemingly inconsequential character. So how about we immortalize her as a playable unit? Obviously this will never happen because, you know, she's dead, much how like people wanted to see Baal's very dead friends also to be playable, and we won't even get into that one. Anyway, I think it'll be fun to speculate about what these characters could be like if they ever became playable, so let's get right into it. I think it's quite obvious what affiliation Kazari would have when it comes to weapons and elements, this being an electro-catalyst. She would have the adult female model type and her ascension stat would be energy recharge. In order to keep in line with her story, Kazari's main role would be as a support unit, being able to cleanse and battery for her teammates, as well as being able to buff them in battle. At the end of the Sacred Sakura quest, you unlock the blueprint for the craftable weapon, Hakushin Ring. This weapon isn't really useful for anyone except under rare cases with Lisa or Sucrose, so I'd like this weapon to be at least somewhat serviceable on Kazari. Kazari's movements would be rather refined, similar to Ayaka. However, she would sometimes show her mischievous side with a giggle or whatnot. Kazari's normals would be quite basic in nature. Her normal attack combos up to 3 times using spherical electro projectiles, similar to Yanfei's normals. Her charge attack would consume a set amount of stamina to make the ground in front of her become electrified. The charge attack would automatically lock on to the closest opponent within a certain range, again similar to Yanfei. This elemental skill will have a tap and hold variant. The tap version will have Kazari disappear for a second and reappear with a burst of electro energy, dealing a little bit of damage and gaining a shard stack. This tap version will have a 1-second cooldown and you're able to have up to 5 shard stacks at a time. The hold version of this elemental skill will have Kazari phase away into little particles while giggling. She will then reappear with a massive burst of electro energy, dealing damage in a large AoE around her. All shard stacks gained from the tap version of the elemental skill will be consumed with the hold variant, increasing its damage further. The shard stacks also have a secondary effect, buffing all party members' elemental damage by 3% for every stack consumed for a maximum of 15%. This buff will not apply to Kazari herself and would last for 8 seconds, and the hold version of the elemental skill itself would have a cooldown of about 15 seconds. On a side note, the shard stacks mechanics take inspiration from the various puzzles within Kazari's quest. When gaining stacks or switching back to Kazari from another unit, you'll see the number of stacks obtained with an icon above her, made to look like the prayer puzzle from her quest. For her burst, Kazari will cause a gust of thunder sakura petals to flow from behind her. This will deal electro damage in a really wide AoE, and apply the Hakushin ward effect to party members for 9 seconds. Hakushin ward would appear on the active character as a cylindrical electro shield, and would have the following effects. Imbues party members with electro. This is similar to Bennett's burst, cancelling any current elemental effects and replacing it with electro. Increase party members' energy recharge by the elemental burst cost. So for example, Zhang Ling, who has a burst cost of 80, will have her energy recharge increased by 80% for those 9 seconds. Zhongli, however, only has a burst cost of 40 and would only receive a 40% increase. While the ward is active, the active character will be immune to electro-based elemental reactions, such as Overload, Electrocharge, and Superconduct. This can be used to your advantage if you're battling near water, for example. Kazari's elemental burst will have an energy cost of 50, a first for Genshin at the time of this recording. During her quest, there's a number of things revolving around the number 5, so I thought that this would make sense. With her first passive, Kazari will be able to battery for her teammates in a more tangible way than just an energy recharge percentage increase. After unlocking this passive, the hold version of Elemental Skill will produce 1 Elemental Orb for every stack consumed. These orbs are the same types produced from the Favonius Weapons passive. Passive 2 will buff the Hakushin Ward effect. This will add a resistance to interruption effect while Hakushin Ward is active, and increase its duration by 2 seconds for a max of 11 seconds. Originally, I wanted Kazari's passive to mark Inazuma specialties on the map. She hasn't been around for 500 years, so she would probably know where everything is. However, Goro was announced to have this passive while I was writing the script, so I'll be nicking the passive from Chen here instead. While Kazari is on an expedition in Inazuma, rewards will be increased. Yes, this does mean that the script was in production for an entire patch, but let's not go into that. As this is getting longer than I wanted it to be, I'll be rattling off the constellations. I don't bother making any names for them either, so if you have any ideas for names you can always let me know in the comments. The first constellation would increase the elemental damage bonus received by the hold elemental skill by 1% for every 10% energy recharge above the base 100% Kazari has, and a maximum of 12% damage bonus can be obtained this way. This basically means that Kazari can increase the damage bonus from a maximum of 15% to a maximum of 27%. However, she needs 220% energy recharge in order to do so. Constellation 2 would grant 2 additional shard stacks when you use your elemental burst. This is just a quality of life constellation, and would make it that Kazari doesn't need to have to be on the field for as long, as you would only really need to use your tap elemental skill 3 times instead of 5 times. Constellation 3 just adds 3 levels for a burst as usual. For Constellation 4, it would add an additional effect to Hakushin Ward. While Hakushin Ward is active, the character on the field gains a 20% decrease for the elemental skill cooldown. Constellation 5 adds 3 extra levels for the elemental skill, and Constellation 6 is the big one. If Kazari falls in battle, grants all remaining party members an additional 70% attack, defense, and energy recharge for 25 seconds. This effect can occur once every 30 minutes. This last constellation is for a last-ditch effort and shouldn't be relied on, but just as Kazari sacrificed herself to save Narukami Island, she would do the same to save your party. Even though Kazari's chances of being playable in the future is, let's be honest, non-existent, I still enjoyed making this video, and I hope you enjoyed watching it. I do fear that I might have made her a little bit too powerful given the current state of the game, however that doesn't really matter to be honest. The Sacred Sakura Cleansing Ritual is still one of my favourite quests in the game, and I would love to see more backstory related to Kitsune Saigu, as well as other characters have already passed in the future. And on the topic of backstories, when are we getting one for A, because I really want to see that. Before I end the video, I do have to give a massive shout out to @Nuupon on Twitter, who made this Kazari artwork for me. This is the first time I've ever commissioned any artwork, and I'm really pleased with the way it turned out. If you want to check his stuff out for yourself, his Twitter will be linked in the description. Anyway, I plan to make more of these kind of videos in the future, so if there's any in-game or even crossover characters you would like to see talked about, make sure to let me know. But that's it for me for now, and until next time, see ya.